Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. I'm joined by Alison Fletcher, which I'll introduce in a sec, and welcome to our webinar, which is all about implementing HR best practice in your business. So this is our webinar for April. So what we're going to cover today in our webinar is what is HR best practice, the value of employee engagement, better ways to recruit and induct new staff, improve staff performance outcomes, and the importance of succession planning. So we hope you really get a lot out of today's webinar. And as I said before, my name is Colin Wilson, and I'm hosting this webinar along with Alison Fletcher. So say hello, Alison.
Hi everybody.
So we love doing these webinars and sharing our knowledge to people who attend our webinars. They're for free, and we get huge value out of it. And we also get a lot of people ringing in afterwards, asking us more questions, which I think is really, really good. So just a bit of housekeeping for today's webinar. The webinar is being recorded, and for those who are registered who are not attending the webinar, they'll automatically receive a copy of the webinar. And for those who want a copy of the webinar, if you look out within 48 hours, we'll have it up on our website underneath all the other webinars that we've done over the last couple of years. Everyone is on mute mode, and we'll give you some time to ask some questions at the end of the webinar, or feel free if you want to ask some questions throughout the webinar using the questions box or the chat box on the webinar. Okay, so our key business advisors, and I always revert to this, our mission is always to take business from good to great. So how do we get our customers to get to the next level? And our purpose is to take our customers on a journey to help them improve all their business through all aspects of employee engagement and performance. And I think that's the thing. You know, employees have got to be engaged in a business, and if they're engaged, then they'll perform. You know, it's all part of the way it works. Some of the things that we specialise in, as you can see, the business advice and strategy. We do a lot of professional sales training and our HR advice and support. And I've got a wonderful team here. So Alison's part of a team of 5 that are out there, all helping our customers with all aspects of employee engagement and performance. So let's get into it. So Alison, I'm going to get you to kick it off with our first topic. What is HR best practice?
Excellent, thank you. So HR best practice, guys, would be putting processes and procedures in place to get the best out of your HR. And what that means is allowing your employees to shine when they can shine, removing any risks to the business as much as possible, and just making sure that, you know, right from recruiting the right talent all the way to onboarding and inductions and performance reviews, everything in between, make sure that your staff are happy and healthy as well. So the best way you can do that, basically.
Beautiful. And it covers everything such as recruitment, induction, compliance, employee engagement, performance, policies, procedures, process, termination, record keeping, and due diligence. And I think, how many times do we come across a company that have got themselves into trouble, and the things that the most common thing is the lack of record keeping and not following that best practice process. Okay, so just to take you through, what is the function of HR in a business? Well, to me, it's to improve the overall performance of the business, you know, and it's what Alison said, to help support and empower staff so they grow. If we're growing the talent within our company, then we're only going to get better outcomes. To support and engage staff to work together. And I think that's a challenge for many companies with different personalities and stuff like that. But if we're all working together and we're all on the same page, going the same direction, then I think definitely we know that those businesses are a cause for growth. To educate staff on the importance of following your company policies and procedures. And I think, again, you know, we always talk about it, that, you know, companies have policy and procedures and a PD, and people sign it on the day they start, but they never refer to them throughout, you know, the life cycle of an employee within the business, which is what we recommend. To advise and facilitate performance conversations and reviews and outcomes. So I think it's important that you're giving feedback. And, you know, this morning, Alison, you know, we did our 6-month review with one of our staff members, and you know, one of the good things that come out of it was the communication. We're very good at communicating to everyone where things are at, which I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And to support the owners and managers to say and do the right thing. So again, You know, sometimes we want to, what's the word, say what's on our mind, but it's, you know, it's how you deliver it. So it's important that you know, the function of you know, good HR in a business is to make sure that we're saying, using the right wording and not offending people. And to minimise risk and maximise sustainability, I think is a big part of HR, and to prevent any unfair dismissals, adverse actions, or general protection claims. And unfortunately, you know, we do make a living through that within our business. I mean, it's fortunate for us, but it's unfortunate for the companies out there, because they've just lost or not followed that fundamental part of having that function of a HR, you know, in their business. Anything you want to add to that, Alison?
I was going to say, on top of that, a lot of businesses don't realise, even if they do terminate someone, and even if they've got the evidence that shows that they were worthy of being terminated, if it's done incorrectly, you can still find yourself in front of Fair Work as well. So it's all about how you do it, and not just the whys as well.
Yeah. So what are the outcomes of having HR best practice? Well, for me, it's very, very simple. It's better skilled people, greater retention rate, an engaged workforce, consistency in business performance, less pain and risk, greater customer outcomes and results, and, you know, just that good solid business growth. And it doesn't happen month by month, but quarter by quarter you can see, because there's no perfect business out there, I don't believe. And then, you know, you end up with higher profits. So, you know, if we've got HR best practice in our business and we're upskilling our employees and our retention rate is good, you know, our workforce is strong, you know, you're going to grow your business. And I think that's something that we aim for every time we go into a company, and try and get, you know, the key stakeholders of the business to follow this best practice. I think is really, really important. Okay, so I want to have a conversation with you around employee engagement. All right, so again, we spoke about before, we want performance, but if we've got engaged employees, then they will perform. So I think having a collaborative approach for employee engagement is the secret to success. So for me, the goal is to be on the same page where the business needs to go, and you provide direction. So, you know, if you're providing direction with employees where you want to go, then of course they'll follow it. So that communication we spoke about before is imperative. Staff need to be respected, and everyone needs to have a good level of understanding of what everyone's role is within the business, which creates better alignment. And, you know, Alison, how many times we go to a company and we see a new staff member started, but they've only been pigeonholed in one section of the business. They don't understand the big picture.
All the time.
Yeah.
So
you know, we're going to talk about induction a bit later on, but, you know, it just, you know, better alignment. You'll definitely, if you can try and do that. When people collaborate and they help one another, then they learn and grow at the same time, which increases the skill level of teamwork with all their colleagues. Engaging staff and getting them involved in decision making will build more trust, ownership, and cohesion within your team. And I'm going to share something with you at the end of this webinar that was a total team effort in building a 12-step best practice HR plan. And now they all own it, and they're out there you know, with our customers, making sure that they're following this best practice methodology.
On that, Cole, if I can just pipe in here, also last year, as the pandemic was gearing up as well, we were asked many times by a lot of our clients how they should communicate with their staff, and we always responded with open and honest communication. And as soon as they had those conversations with the team members, they found that they had more buy-in with what was going to happen, even though it was quite stressful, which it was for everybody at the time. Because they had those open, honest conversations, they knew where the business needed to go, and they were more supportive of the decisions that were going to happen. So that's the good side to having those conversations as well.
100%, and I think, and this is a great segue to my next point, which is when staff are emotionally connected to the business, they want to come and work and help the business succeed. And I think that's what happened during that pandemic, when there was good communication. I think, you know, when there's high collaboration, you know, you end up with more passionate employees who love their job. And I think, you know, that is one thing that we've seen people check out of businesses during this pandemic is, well, I really don't love my job, and I want to do something different. So there's a lot of movement happening out there in the marketplace with people moving around and switching roles and stuff like that. So we've certainly seen an increase in people wanting us to help them recruit because of people leaving and moving on within a business.
Yeah.
Okay, the importance of team building. This is one of we all love team building, but what does it do? I think it creates better collaboration when we do stuff together, and people learn more about each other. I think, and that's to me, part of leadership is you learn more about people and what makes them tick and what they love to do in life, what keeps them happy. I think is important. Achieves better outcomes on projects, creates better alignment, and again, achieves higher results. Now, I'm a results-driven person, so for me, everything I do is all about, well, how do we improve? What can we do to get to that next level? But you can't do it alone. You've got to embrace your team. And doing some team building stuff, the staff feel valued. Am I right with that, Alison?
Always. we always feel valued. But it's so true. The more you collaborate with the team, the more support they feel that they're getting, and the more it just it increases their happiness levels as well, and it just opens up that relationship building exercise to another level as well. So it's all good.
Yeah. And we all constantly hear, how do I get staff to go above and beyond? I think if you're really good at communication and you're building teamwork, then staff will do that. They'll do what's best for the business. I think it's important. Okay, I want to just go and have a conversation about, we do a lot of employer staff satisfaction surveys, and coming back this year, we've done quite a few because companies want to get their staff back to work, working out of the office. They want to try and improve things because it was a terrible year last year for many businesses. But I think, and some businesses thrived as well, so they want to know, well, what can I do to keep going? But if you do some form of employer staff satisfaction survey, then this will provide like a 360-degree feedback of where the business is at, and you get a full report. Now, whether you do it with us or you do it with somebody else or you try and do it internally, that is up to you. One thing I will say, if you do it internally, people won't open up as much, because if it's anonymous and it's done by a third party, then you find out more information. But when you do get that information, it sets good foundations of what the business needs to do to grow. And it can identify what's going really, really well in the business, but it also can highlight areas of improvement where the business can improve. And I think it's what you do with that information, which is what's really, really important. And it shows all staff at the company really cares about continuous improvements. How do we continually get better and better at what we do? So everyone is on the same page to get the best outcomes moving forward, because that's what sets the benchmarks. So as a team, you can set new goals and objectives to take your company or take your business to the next level. So if anyone wants to know anything more, you can click on the link about that. But Alison, we're involved in a few surveys together. What are some of the reasons why you think some of those customers have wanted to do the survey?
Because they a lot of the times when we've done them, they've realised that there's a disconnect, but they're not sure why or how. And so they want the surveys done to get to the bottom of it so that they can try and fix it. Or sometimes we also get clients who think that everything is rosy, and we go in there and we see a different story. So we get the surveys done, and that also confirms a different story as well. So
yeah. Well, one customer doesn't want to do a survey because she already knows what the results are going to be. They're not going to be good. So again, it is about, I think it sets good foundations of what you need to do to move forward. And I think, look, by finding this, if we've got staff turnover in a business, well, how do we prevent that from happening again? And looking at better ways to recruit and induct new staff is, you can get a lot of information with your, fairly new employees of what you've done well in the recruiting aspect and what can you do better moving forward. So understanding the recruitment process. So I've got, like, for an example, 10 things here, I think, that you need to do before you start that, recruitment process, and you've got this pretty much well laid out. This is what your process is going to be. And number one is you need to have a good position description that defines the role. And again, Alison, we have situations where people start a job and, what's in the PD is not what they're doing. And there's a confusion like what I'm expected to do. And I know that in a PD we say, and other things within keeping this role, but it can't be 50% other things and 50% of the PD's not right. So it's important to get that.
That's right. It happens, yeah. Sorry.
It happens. And when do you reckon you should refresh your PDs in a business?
Oh, at least every 12 months, or if part of the review process, if there's positions that are being altered at that point, do them then. And then the other time would be just before you do a new recruitment drive, just to check to see if the PD is exactly what it should be. You can update it then as well.
Yeah.
But regularly.
Yeah. Agree. It's important to get that right. It's important to get like, this is what we want this person to do. And I always talk about what are the skill sets and competencies you want this role to do, and what are the behaviours, desired behaviours. And if you've got good mission, vision, and values, some of those behaviours should link to, or some of the information out of that mission, vision, and values should link to the behaviours. But when you've got all that, you can create a job ad that reflects the PD. And again, when people are looking for a role in a business, as much as we're trying to put bait out to get people to come and work for us, in today's world, people are also looking for the right job for them. So the more clear you are, the better you're going to get a bite to when you put a job ad out. You definitely want to advertise internally and externally. And the reason why I say internally, there might be someone in the role, somebody in the business who wants that role. There might be somebody who knows somebody who'd be perfect for that role. So you want to educate them. Nothing worse than putting somebody on and no one knows about it in the company until someone's already been appointed. And again, we've seen that happen, and we've seen that's done damage to the overall culture internally inside the business. When you have advertised the role and you've got people, you want to review the candidates and create a short list. And again, I always say, put a bit of bait out there, and I'll cover that in a sec. But with the short list, you want to do like a phone screen to create an even shorter list, right? Narrow down your short list. So from what you've read, let's see if I like the sound of them. Do they have good energy on the other end of the phone? Are they what I'm looking for? Then you conduct your first round of interviews, and then typically, you would identify your top 2 or 3 candidates from your first lot of from your phone screens. And then the second round interview, you want to identify who you want. So, it might be down to your final 2. Now, I've seen it where companies have interviewed 6 people in one day and they've forgotten what the first person looked like by the end of the day. So getting this recruitment process right is really important. And it also helps you with your time management and choosing the right person as well. A big thing for me is when you offer someone a role, you offer them the job because, and you do what I call like a summary close. You summarize what you've liked about their job application, maybe their covering letter, their what's in their resume, the skill sets they bring to the business. Pick out some things in the first and second interview that you've really liked and highlight that to them. And then once you've offered them the role, because you're setting expectations, you want to confirm your start date to make sure the candidate has been sent all the information required to be successful in the role, such as your PD, employment contract, staff information form. And there's another thing you can do, like if you're struggling a little bit, maybe do some recruiting and doing some group interviews. So where you get, if you've got a lot of people coming from the role, and typically they're done in a retail environment or a call center environment, but it's another way of doing recruitment. So is there anything you want to add to that, Alison?
I think it's important to note that these steps are really good best practice, because without the position description being clearly defined, that upsets the next steps onwards. So if you're trying to put a job ad out and it's just been hashed at the last minute and you don't have clear description within that ad, you're not going to grab the best talent that you want or the position deserves. And that's the other thing as well. So it's got to be right from the get-go. You've got to make sure that all the steps have been covered before you get to the bottom. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up to fail.
You are, and you don't want to build a PD on the fly as you grow, because that's just not going to be fair for the person that's coming on board and working for you. Okay, so if we talk about getting your recruitment process right to attract the best people, so what you put out, I say what you put out is what you get back. So you really want to make it attractive to what you're looking for the person who's going to apply for this role. Be clear of what experience, competencies and behaviours the business requires. So these are the skill sets that we need, these competencies and the behaviours that I mentioned before. Because what you put out is what you're going to get to apply for. And I know a lot of people will, I constantly hear, oh, I put this job ad out and people have applied, they don't have the skill sets. Well, look, that's fine, because they're looking for a job. What you're looking for is you're looking for a person that's going to come in and engage and employ you with the skill sets. And yes, they're looking for a job, and that's part of the process. And what happens with Seek is I can actually attach my PD and a salary range, sorry, not PD, my resume and a salary range of a job position I'm looking for. And the moment I as a company place that ad, I automatically get all these resumes sent to me. But it's about sifting through and really finding what you actually want. I think part of the process is you've got to sell the role you're looking for in today's world, why you're the best company and why this role is going to be so exciting. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for today, especially the younger generation. So you sell your company and why is so great, and I think that's important. And be clear on expectations, especially around the packages, right? So what the package is. And again, we see companies who, they've got a salary range in mind, and that's what they're prepared to pay, or that's their limit, and they put a job ad out, and they've oversold it, if I can say that, where they've got high quality candidates that are applying for it, but they don't want to pay that much. So you just want to make sure you get everything right and be on the same page. And one of the things I love, I always encourage, is ask each candidate to supply 5 reasons why they think they'd be a good fit for your business when you're advertising, because that would mean that they have gone and done a bit of research on your company, put in a bit of time and effort. And for me, that's part of the recruitment process. I always look at what the covering letter says, and does that make me want to read the resume, and have they done some research? There's nothing worse when you ring somebody up and say, hey, look, I'd like to have a chat to you. You've applied for a role in my business, and they say, well, who are you? Because I've applied for like 20 roles. And that's, so we want somebody who wants to come in and really be part of your business. And I think your next employee, you've got to look at it, they're the most valuable asset to your business. So you need to advertise and track the people, and then and the people you want, and then you need to induct and train them to make sure they fit your way. And I constantly hear with people, I've advertised to people, and there's no one got experience. Well, okay, do they have some form of the competencies you're looking for, and is the behaviours right? Because I always say, recruit the right attitude and teach the skill set. Try not to do it the other way. Don't do it the other way around, because it's the right behaviour. They'll learn quickly if you've got a really good induction process. Is there anything you want to add to that, Alison?
Yes, I was going to say culture is king. So culture always comes first, and that's harder to train. You can train skills, but I also agree with you with regards to the questions and the reference letters. Quite often we'll get people respond to adverts that we've placed on behalf of clients, and they haven't even bothered to read the ad properly, let alone they've just spat out their resume with none of, they haven't met any of the criteria we've asked for. So it shows how little attention they're paying. And to me, if they're not paying attention, that they're not keen on joining the business in the first place. So
what's that word? I'll come and start and see if I like the role.
Yeah.
A few times, right? We don't want that. We want someone to say, I really want this role, because what I've been looking for the last what I've been looking for, and I can see that I can add value to your business. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so we put somebody on, and then I always say, when someone goes into a business and they've started and left, I ask the question, well, what did you do to fail them? Right? And most managers and business owners don't like saying that, right? Now, I do understand sometimes you employ people and they're not the right fit and all of that, but you pick that up in the first week or two, right? But I think, your number one for me is, if you have a good induction process, it shows that you're a professional, and you're a well-organised company. Now, this is where a lot of small businesses fail, because they put somebody on, they're not well organised, and then that person's gone, well, I've just left one customer or one company, and I've now come to this, and I left them because they weren't organised, and now I've stepped into a company that's almost the same. So it's not a good experience. So I think it's important that you definitely want to make sure you've got that well laid out. And it confirms, as the next point is, it confirms in the new employee's mind that they've made the right decision. And I can tell you as an employer, where you're paying staff wages, when they start and you've got a good induction process. Now, orientation is where you take them for a walk around and show them the safety and, you know, where we meet for if there's a fire, and, you know, you go through the orientation process. But induction's about learning, you know, how things work in your business to get the best outcomes. You onboard new employees, you know, if you do this successfully, you will onboard your new employees faster. Therefore, you get quicker output. I do truly believe that, and we've seen that so many times, especially with the clients that we work with that have got a good induction process. And very quickly they work out whether the person's going to stay or not within the first 2 to 3 weeks, because based on the uptake of how it is. As I mentioned before, orientation is for a day, and that's their first day. And induction is about inducting the staff, that new staff member, you know, through all aspects of the business. So it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, depending on the position and the experience. I think, Alison, you know, part of your induction was 1 day, I think, at the time, when because we were in trouble. So that does happen in businesses. But of recent, when we put a few people on, they've had a 2-week rotation per person. We did have an induction plan for you. It just didn't stick because we had so much didn't stick on the first day. That's all. But we did go back to it. But I think it's important to have, you know, a plan put out. So, and I like to send that induction plan to the new candidate before they start, so they can see, wow, this is professional. You've raised the bar on how I'm going to be inducted in the business. And you know, so, and I think the other thing too is, you know, don't do all the induction by 1 or 2 people. Create a calendar plan and have them spend 1 or 2 hours per person with selected team members, so they fully understand what the business does. And I made that comment before that, you know, we've gone and met a new starter in a business, been there for, you know, 8 weeks, and they don't know what the rest of the business does because they've been pigeonholed in one little section. So I think it's important to showcase the big picture. And it's also a great way that, you know, if I create an org chart and I've got an org chart that's part of their induction plan, so the staff member gets to meet different people throughout the business, of course they're going to start building good relationships. They'll ask questions about what's it like in this business, what's the culture like, and again, that will create more motivation, and they'll learn more about what the business does and what each department does throughout the business. So again, I made that comment before, if you fail to plan, then you may fail that new starter. So anything you want to add to that, Alison?
I couldn't agree anymore, other than my lack of induction. Thanks, Cole. But
Yep.
no, it's so important, because then it's that you get the buy-in from the new starter as well. That they're made to feel so special, that people are taking what they think is time out of their busy day. And yes, they are, but if you spread the love around, then it's not that much time. And then they get a really good understanding of the business as a whole, rather than, as you keep saying, the pigeonholing. Then they get an understanding of the business, and then you just get that buy-in a lot quicker. And then, as you also said, the business can work out very quickly whether that's the right person or not, because they will show whether they're interested, and they will be keen to keep coming back. It makes for a happier environment right from the get-go as well.
Yep, it's a huge cost to employ somebody and then turn them over. And if you've got high turnover of staff, and that's typically how we onboard a new client in our business, is because there is a high turnover of staff, they want to work out how to slow it down because it's costing the business a fortune. Okay, my topic 4 is about, or our topic 4 is about improving staff performance outcomes. And this is right down your alley, Alison, because, you know, you love all this sort of stuff. So, you know, the power of team meetings and training sessions. Maybe you can take us through this slide, please.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So hold team meetings to keep your performance in your business going, and whether that's company meetings if it's a smaller business, or have departmental meetings if it's a larger organisation. And they don't have to be in person, as we all know. We all had to find new ways to run these meetings from last year. So if you still have staff who are being very flexible or still at home, you can have them via Teams or Zoom, whatever it might be. And just what we always try to explain to our clients is make sure you've got an agenda. Stick to the agenda, because without an agenda, it's not really a meeting. It's just a check-in, catch up, chitter chatter, and then everyone walks away and no one knows what was meant to be happening because it gets sidetracked. So have an agenda, and I think it's important to always make sure that you've got someone taking those notes, and not just have a note taker, but make sure that they also add in who was responsible for completing whatever task it is, and issuing those notes to everybody who was in the meeting. So then they've got a true record of what was said, and you've also got accountability being allocated to the right people as well, and then no one can turn around and say that they forgot. So something that Colin likes to say is ABC, always be closing on an outcome.
That's right, Alison. I'm like, if someone says, oh, I'm going to do this week, don't give me this week. Give me a date. Oh, I'm going to do it by Thursday. Oh, that's what I want to know. Always be closing an outcome. Not that's a case of, oh, I'm going to hold you accountable and you're in trouble if you don't do it. But I just want some sort of level of commitment, because, you know, for me, what builds good culture in a business is if someone says, oh, I'm going to do it by Thursday, and they can't do it by Thursday, then my expectations is they reach out for help. Rather than go, oh, I didn't get a chance to do that last week. Right.
I agree.
So, yeah. And I one thing that, as you know, Alison, I don't like is when someone says, I don't have time. Well, okay, the business needs people to perform. And therefore, if you don't have the time, then we're a team. So who can we delegate to? And, you know, we had a wonderful meeting this morning with our team. So we did a HR team meeting. There was 6 of us in the room. And you know, we went around the room, what do you got on the go and what's working, and, you know, and at the very end, or who's got time that we can, you know, throughout the week that we could throw stuff to if we can't get some of these goals achieved. And, you know, God love her, Stephanie, and she's fairly new, put her hand up and says, I've got time, I'll make myself available to anyone who needs help, right? And I think that's the right attitude of what we're looking for.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. But also with regards to nominating the time to get it done, there's 2 things that come out of that. One, people are more likely to do it if they're better planned and they can schedule the time, because then they're committed to doing it, so then they'll allocate the time. If they don't, they just say, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. Later comes and goes, it never happens. The other thing is, if they can't do it, as you just said, as we had in our meeting this morning, people put their hands up and say, you know, who has got capacity? So if they're not able to get that work completed by the time they've said they could, they can put their hands up and ask if someone else can help out. So again, that goes back to the team collaborating together and being supportive of each other as well. So that's always good. And again, back onto the slide, it says training sessions are used to upskill your people and get them to next level, which is always a great thing. So you can always do that. And if you need to ask a question, ask, do they need the training? Do they need training? How can we help them to? So if they're not able to do tasks, why are they not able to do it? Is the question.
Why do they need the training? That's right, absolutely. And I think the other thing too is, what are the outcomes you want from the employee being trained? You know what I mean? So again, Alison, that's a you know, like I had a conversation with a lady this morning, and she's organised all this training, and I asked the question, so what is the outcome you want from the training? Why do they need training? What's the outcome? And she said, I just need to motivate them. So do they need training for motivation? So do they need motivational training, or do they need product training? Well, what is it? So it's like really nailing down what do they really want. And I sort of felt, you know, towards the end, it's like, I don't think that person knew why they needed training. I've got new staff, yes, I need to be upskilled, but what is the outcome you actually want? So from them being trained, and I think this needs to be a win-win for both parties. So I'm going to train you, and then from that training, what are you going to bring back to the business?
Oh, for sure. Otherwise, why, like you said, why is the training happening? Is it just to check a box? Is it you've got budget money to spend? Not sure. But it also should come from the performance conversations and appraisals as well. When you have those conversations, ask the team member, what areas do you believe you need to improve in? What training do you think you need? And then you can have a conversation around that as well, and then you can organise something if you think that it's something that's necessary for their current role. Obviously, if someone's in a certain role and they want to get trained in another role, you may consider whether you want to do that or not. It may not be worth it. But again, if you grow your staff, you grow your business.
Yeah, And again, who's training, doing the training too. So you don't want somebody who's, I guess, somebody who's, what's the word, not skilled training somebody. It's like the learner training the learner, so it's, you don't want that. You want to make sure that the training is done properly so you get the best outcomes. Okay, so the importance of performance discussions. Now, this is your baby, Alison, so I'll leave that one to you.
Thank you. Well, as the first point says, it sets a clear pathway for each staff member, and I think that's the most critical point right from the beginning. It should be engaging and motivating for the staff member so that they want to make improvements if they need to. If they are underperforming, you can always put in a performance improvement plan, or what we call a PIP, and hopefully they can follow that plan and make the necessary improvements that are needed. You can also set clear expectations within that plan and a timeline as well. It's important to have a timeline, can't be never ending. So I would recommend maybe start with a month and see how it goes, or a couple of months, depending on what the issue is actually. Good performance discussions are critical, and it's not always negative as well. A lot of people think performance management's about the negative side. It's not. It also involves recognition and praise for good work done or good attitude as well. And you can see the employees' capabilities grow, especially when they take ownership for what they're doing as well. So.
Yep, 100%. I just love it when you see people just, what's the word, stand up and just do it. You know what I mean? And it's all come from the motivation of having those appraisals.
Yeah.
Okay, so the importance of formal performance reviews and appraisals. So to me, like, number one, it shows that you're professional and well organised as a company. And it empowers employees to do their best, providing that they are done right. So that's one thing that Alison just brought up before. You've got to make sure that the appraisals are seen as a positive thing and constructive. And again, if someone's underperforming, that's a different conversation. Maybe it'll lead to a performance cancelling session. But if performance appraisal should be seen as a positive thing. And again, it sets clear guidelines and expectations. And I think, this is what's really important to me, and things that, that myself and the team advise, that if you've got really good company goals objectives and they're linked to the employee output where there is consistency. So consistency is saying this is what we want to achieve as a company. It's linked to what the employees need to do. It's a conversation that happens in team meetings, one-on-one discussions, training, and it's result-based. Then staff should want to be part of your performance management process, as they may think, and I think it should be true. Like, there's got to be some reward for effort in today's, not today's world, it's not today's world, it's all the time. If people are putting in and they're helping that business grow, then it needs to be, they need to be rewarded for their efforts. And whether that be monetary, or whether that be a team building team building event or something like that, whatever you decide to do, it's got to be positive. And I'm really big on this. I really talk about to every client that we do work with. If you're a professional sales organisation, you have a sales team. You're reviewing the performance daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, right? Yearly. That's how it works. But for everyone else who might be like admin or another part of the business, I'm really big on doing quarterly performance reviews that's linked to your company strategy. And the way I advise it and recommend it is, you link it with the quarter that goes with the ATO, whatever you pay in BAS, right? Because the business is doing well and you're paying a lot of BAS, then that's a good thing. If the business is not doing well and you're not paying so much BAS, then you know that well, okay, we need to lift our performance. So I think quarterly reviews is not just about financial. This is also about customer output, definitely with business processes, because I think that gets left off many performance appraisals, and teamwork, again, building that culture within the business to make it so great. So your performance appraisal and reviews, whatever you do, you need to put a strategy behind it and make sure it's linked to a process. And with companies that do annual reviews, and we've seen it, they've done an annual review, and during COVID, they've skipped the annual review because haven't been able to do it because of COVID, and so again, I see that that's created a bit of a negative effect within the culture of the business. If you do them quarterly and you stick to them, and you can always do them half yearly and say we'll review the half yearly one quarterly. I don't care, but have a process and stick to it. And I think that's something that even during COVID we still went through the the appraisal process with our company to make sure everyone was on the same pathway of where we wanted to head. Anything you want to add to that, Alison?
I was going to say I agree, because especially during last year, so many people would be left in limbo from their employers when they didn't have their reviews continuing, and it was such a stressful time. And just knowing that you're still turning up and you're still chugging out the work, and it would have been nice for a lot of companies to still have those check-ins. So I think they've missed a really good opportunity by not having them done.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I look, how many times have we had companies ring us and say, "Oh, I've got some employees working from home. I don't know whether they're working or not. I'm not too sure." Well, if you've got really good, if I say you've got a really good articulated position description and expectations and goals and objectives, and it's linked to performance conversations in a positive way, and the culture's good, we already know that the clients that have got that, their staff are working from home, and it might be that they're looking after the kids doing homeschooling, but they're on later at night to still put in their 7.5, 8 hours a day for that business. We've seen that with many companies that have got that good culture. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the importance of succession planning. So I think this to me is something that again can sometimes get left off the table in some companies, but to me this leverages from the good performance discussions around continuous improvement. So I think staff need to be empowered to grow to the next level, which increases the skill level. So if I can increase skill level, then I'm going to get better output. When you set a standard around behaviours and outcomes, so if I'm going to find somebody who's going to, I'm going to do some succession plan with, and I think everyone should be part of that succession plan conversation, it is about upping that skill level. I think, when you've identified some people who will take on that responsibility, we start to delegate more responsibility and challenge them, and then recognise the milestones and praise them for what their achievements have been. And again, that reward for effort for those who have gone above and beyond. And I think, again, what constitutes above and beyond in today's world, and it's not somebody coming to work on time, it's somebody who have taken something on board and exited it and done their best to see it through, I think is what's really, really important. But, we all want to get our staff to the next level. And again, that links back to, the performance conversations and that succession planning of what you want to achieve. I think one of the things that I'm really big on is creating like those emerging future leaders within a company. And again, I've seen it many times over the last 13 years where someone's gone to find that next leader, and they've gone to market outside of the business, and then they've lost some good performers within the business. They've left. And then, we know the reason why, because when we do the exit surveys with them, and ask the question and say, well, I was never groomed or never chosen to take on that leadership role. Yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, I was just going to say the exact same thing. So when companies look to go outside the business without even considering what talent they've already got existing within the business, they're not having a good culture within the organisation, and then they will find that the retention level drops dramatically, because people will go, well, why would I stay somewhere where I'm not going to be groomed or considered and be part of the team? So it's always important to look within your own backyard before you look elsewhere, I think.
Yeah, and I think, look, you try and find that early, you know what I mean? So the amount of customers that we've done some work with, which I constantly saying, like, you've failed this person before they even start. So a manager's moved on or an assistant manager's moved on, and then they grab the next person and say, right, we all now the manager, with no management experience, no coaching or mentoring, no understanding. So I think, you set them up to fail. So I think, again, creating future leaders is this is just part of it. So you identify those who have the passion to grow and become a leader. And then you be proactive and start early for that future development and set some expectations on leadership behaviour and performance. So again, if someone's going to want to be a future leader, they can't be late. They've got to be positive in meetings. They've got to lead by example, and it's, they need to be trained to do this. Have your emerging leaders, you can train some new staff. So I'm going to give you some responsibilities. So the next time a new staff member coming in, you're going to train them on how to use this part of our system, because I've actually announced it that you're going to be a future leader. And then bring them into the performance conversations with others. So I wouldn't say a formal review, but probably maybe some one-on-one discussions and stuff like that, and seek their opinion. Well, how do you think they're going? Because again, that is all part of encompassing cohesion and collaboration within a business. I've got a program on emerging leaders. You can have a look at that on our website as well. I think, you build the foundations within your company. So we constantly see that, people move on with the business, and that's part of life, right? I'll give you two case studies. One is our own. So, when you build foundations within the business, then what happens is, if you've got, for an example, like we had Stephanie, who's with us for 7 years, she's moved on, and that was a celebration within the business. And automatically we had two people, being yourself, Alison and Maya, ready to step into that that leadership role, and it's just been absolutely fantastic for our business. But I can give you a case study of another business that I know of that we don't do any work with, but someone in their business after 5 years resigned, and because that person resigned, the whole leadership of that company, the management of that business, pretty much did not talk to that person for 2 weeks. It was a terrible experience with the way they exited him out of the business, because they felt that they were cheated, like, you left us, how dare you leave us in the lurch? But what's happened since then is 3 others have followed him, because they didn't like the way that this person was treated after 5 years. So you've really got to be careful about what you do out there when you're, when you're building that success within your business. And should somebody leave, it's about having that next group or that next layer ready to go. So something to think about. If you don't empower your staff and have good foundations for them, then be prepared they may leave. The biggest complaint I get from business owners is they don't have time. They don't have the time to work on my business, as I'm always working in the business. So when you throw someone in the deep end without any type of training or support, then you may be failing them to succeed. So my 3 points is, and there's something to think about, is if you don't empower them, what's going to happen? That's number one. Number two is, I work in the business and on the business, but I delegate work to people. I don't run my HR part of the business. I have 2 wonderful women that run that part of the business, and they do a fantastic job of it. And it takes pressure off me. And I did say today in a review that we did with somebody, I don't lose sleep for night time of any doubt of anyone not working in this business, because it's just got full accountability and ownership. And I think when you throw somebody in the deep end, well, yeah, I've seen that many times. Without any type of training or support, then you put them under huge stress for them, and you actually fail them to succeed. So is there anything you want to add to that, Alison?
Oh, it's just goes back down to making sure that you plan, and even if they're not in a new employee, they're going to change roles. It's important to have a bit of an induction process happening at that point. Maybe you wouldn't do one as extensive as a new employee, because obviously they would understand the business side of things a lot more. But if they're changing departments or a different role, then you've got to make sure that you have a bit of an induction plan to make sure that they have the training and get a really good understanding of the role as well. So like you said, don't throw them in the deep end. Just because they may know the business doesn't necessarily mean they know the role, because they've not done the role before. It's all new. And sometimes I think employers forget that side.
Yeah, I think, look, as part of the Emerging Leaders program that I run, Alison, is in one particular business I've done this program with, the emerging leader, they've got her doing a startup meeting once a week. right? So normally it's done between the manager and assistant manager. They're slowly grooming her into that role, and they brought out some new products, and they've got her as the head of training of that particular product. So they're giving her projects and tasks that allows her to develop that leadership skills, and she's getting more respect from others within the business. So it's just a really good success story. Okay, I think we've done as always, we've done a very good webinar. I love doing these webinars, and we've got a special offer for our webinar attendees. So we talked about doing an employer staff satisfaction survey. So if anyone out there would like to know more about it, we're offering 20% off for people who are on this webinar. And normally they're charged at $2,800 ex GST, so it's $2,240 should someone want a staff workplace done within their business. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was this 12-step, this HR best practice 12-step plan. So you can download that off our website, but what I have done here is, you should be seeing this on the screen, is this was something that was put together by myself and the HR team and finalised with Emma and Lorraine, who do the marketing within our business. But you can download this off our website, but it talks about, you know, the steps you need to have what we believe is good best practice, HR best practice within a business that gets everyone on the same page. And it links to everything that we just spoke about within this webinar, and it's a lot more detailed. So feel free, you can download that, and it talks about, you know, what we do from a HR perspective and how we hold our customers more accountable in making sure they're implementing these type of processes within their in their business. So you can have a look at that, and that's downloaded there, and along with other free HR documents you might find useful from our webinar today: recruiting, managing staff applications more effectively, how to keep staff engaged. You can see that there's more downloads on our website. Do we have any questions? So any questions now? There's Jaden. You're always on this webinar, on our webinars. You always got a question for me. You got a question for me there? How have we gone today? Yep, he's typed something in. So he's gone, all good, mate. So yeah, so I think that's good, and I reckon we're probably due to do an employer staff satisfaction survey at Rhino. So I think I'd love you to talk to Ben about that. That'd be fantastic. Okay. Anyone wants to know information or would like to talk to us more, you can book a free 15-minute chat with myself or any of the HR team, or you can email us. We're pretty accessible, and we love what we do. It's not work. We're very passionate about everything we do. Our next webinar I think is a beauty. It's understanding staff behaviour so people get along. I think this is a big thing that we're seeing out there in the market, especially with the new way of life in business. So we're going to make sure that'll happen. So
that's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. Yeah, I think all of our webinars are good, but this one in particular is definitely it's definitely got and how we create these webinars is we just don't come up with them. We sit back and look at what's going on, and I normally write my blog articles. We write articles in this business and do our webinars based on what goes out there in the marketplace, so we know it's current and we know what it's doing. So yeah, okay, and I just want to say thanks very much for attending this webinar. As I said, thank you very much, Alison. You know, you're absolutely fantastic as always, and I think we've come across a good team. And thanks for today, everyone. And if you've got any questions, please give us a buzz. And enjoy, everyone. Enjoy this this cold weather we're about to get into down here in sunny old Melbourne. So thanks, guys. That concludes the webinar, and talk to you soon.